I'll just start it early.
Oh.
Is there a button to press on there? Oh, right here. Wait, no, that's good.
That's fine. How do I come in?
Timer ready.
Hey, Kirsten.
Hey Julie, what are you up to?
Well, I was just gonna go get an animal.
Have you thought of where you're gonna get it from? Like a shelter, society?
No, I haven't thought about that yet.
Well, let's tune into this. See if you can decide where you want to get your pet from.
Alright.
Alright, so how many of you in this vastly large audience think that you're going to get a pet someday or add another pet to your family someday? Awesome. Well, have you thought about maybe where you're going to get it from?
During this presentation today, we're going to give you some information about the history of the Humane Society, discuss what the Humane Society does, inform you on the care of the pets, provide you with information on how the adoption process works, and discuss interesting facts about the Humane Society.
Now a little bit of history about the Humane Society. The Humane Society of the United States was founded in 1954 by 4 people. A journalist named Fred Myers, and then 3 others, Helen Jones, Larry Andrews, and Marcia Glazer. These members took out personal loans to finance the institution in its early days. 4 years after the agency was created, the Slaughter Act was passed, which the agency considered its first true win. They placed investors in labs to check on the living situations of animals that were being experimented on, such as by cigarette companies and stuff like that. It was weird that they actually experimented on that. A decade later, the Animal Welfare Act of 1966 was passed, and they considered that an even larger win, as it was an overarching legislation upon animals. They also passed legislation in 1975 and 1978 related to dog fighting and cockfighting, which is chicken fighting. They have disaster plans for pets and animals, such as when hurricanes hit, oil spills, tornadoes, stuff like that. They'll provide for the animals if they find lost animals. And if they have microchips in them, they can usually find their owners. In 1991, Humane Society International was established. In 1992, they established a policy of spading and neutering the pets before giving them up for adoption to help curb the rise in homeless pets. The Humane Society, throughout the 20th century into the 21st, is focused on helping animals without homes find them, and also has the largest lobbying group for ethical treatment of animals as well as the living conditions. It is the largest animal advocacy group in the world, with 7 million members and over $160 million worth of assets.
So now I'm going to talk to you all a little bit about one of the positive things that the Humane Society is associated with. This would be animal shelters, and I'm sure most of you, if not all of you, have an animal shelter around your area somewhere. They run on very tight budgets, and because of this, they are really dependent on volunteer workers. Most animal shelters have many different volunteers that do all sorts of different tasks and assignments, and these can include things such as dog walking, cat socializing, pen cleaning, assisting and feeding in other care, and as well as other care such as like bathing and grooming the animals, adoption counseling to people who may be wanting to adopt one of the pets out of the center. And if you stick with it long enough, you can actually work your way up to more administrative positions in the animal shelters. And a lot of people also choose to do more than one job depending on how much time they have to volunteer. So being a volunteer seems like a really fun and exciting and rewarding time, and it really is, but you need to make sure that you consider a number of things before you just jump in and go and volunteer. The first thing is that to volunteer at your local animal shelter, it's a really serious time commitment. Most shelters really ask numerous hours per week out of you to volunteer, and it's very important that you commit to these hours because as they are dependent on volunteers and volunteer hours, they really depend on you being there when you say you can, and it's obviously not very fair to the shelter if you commit time and promise that you're going to be there and then really can't fulfill that time commitment. So as a volunteer, you must also be ready to pretty much jump in and like help out with anything that the volunteer center needs you to do, even if it's not necessarily the job that you were assigned to do in the first place. So if you think that this is something you want to do and you want to commit to being a volunteer, it's actually a really easy process to get started. The first thing you're going to need to do is fill out an application, and the application process is generally really quick and easy. And if you honestly have a strong desire to volunteer at an animal shelter and help out, they're probably not going to turn you away. After being accepted to be a volunteer, you're going to need to go through an orientation process. And this is normally required at all centers to new volunteers who, and this allows you to kind of just familiarize yourself with the center, as well as familiarize yourself with your role and what you're going to be doing at the center. The orientation process is also a really good way to meet other volunteers, other people who are already helping out there, and just get to know them as well. So there are also, just besides volunteering, there are many other ways in which you can get involved and just help out local shelters around your area. These can include just really simple things such as raising awareness in your community, just letting other people know like what's going on, what the shelters are doing, and letting them know how they can help out. As well as if you don't have time to physically go and volunteer, they're always welcoming financial donations because, like I said earlier, they do operate on a really tight budget, so any small donations can help them as well. So as you can see, there are a lot of different ways that you can go and help out your local shelters, and any help is very appreciated by them.
When you guys vision a humane society, do you envision cage after cage of sad animals? Well, to settle any of these uneasy thoughts, I'm going to discuss the optimal care that the Humane Society provides for its animals. Under the Minnesota Companion Animal Protection Act, or the Minnesota CAPA, Act number 346.66 states that once they receive an animal in, they must first check for the animal for any identification tags or microchips that would identify if they had any rightful owners in which they belong to. If the animal does not possess a microchip or identification tag, they are taken in for assessment and care. The animals are provided with fresh food and water every day. Also, the cages that they stay in are cleaned every day. Under the Minnesota CAPA section 346.64, there are no chemicals or pressure washes used when the animals are in the cages. The cages are also maintained throughout the day to maintain a healthy and a protective environment for the animals. The Humane Societies are also aware of the social interaction and the playful needs of the animals, so they are provided with plenty of social interaction time with other pets and with humans, and they are also provided with plenty of toys to play and burn off some energy. Another bonus for the animals is that they are given treats throughout the day. There are veterinarians that are constantly on staff at the Humane Societies to assess the animals' health and their behaviors. Unfortunately, sometimes the Humane Society takes in animals that have been brought from such a negative situation, such as cruelty or abandonment. So these animals are sometimes misbehaved, being either shy or very angry animals. So the Humane Society provides behavior modification classes for these animals to help make sure that they are safe to put up for adoption and safe to be with another family. Unfortunately, though, the Humane Society has a limited holding time of 5 days for each animal. If at the end of these 5 days the animal is in optimal care and ready to be with another family, they will be put into a shelter or will be adopted there on the 5th day. If the animal is suffering and not doing well, they are euthanized by a lethal injection given by the veterinarian. Spaying and neutering pets is a way to reduce the amount of animals showing up on the streets for humane societies, but also an increase in adopting an animal from the Humane Society helps to decrease the euthanization of pets.
One way to help out the Humane Society is to consider adoption. The Humane Society and the Ad Council came together and sort of created this Shelter Pet Project. And what the Shelter Pet Project does is its goal is to make adoption the first place people go to look for a new pet or companion. And so they do this by advertising, as you can see. Most of them are humorous, but there's nothing wrong with shelter pets. So they really just try to get their message out there that adoption is a good thing, and there is nothing wrong with shelter pets. And they also ensure that pets go to loving homes, and they really check up on the animals. They encourage people to send in updates on their new pet and stuff like that. So they have a main message, and that message is a person is the best thing that could happen to a shelter pet. Be that person, adopt. So they are really encouraging people. And they have several ads, like this one. It's not the cat's fault. This family moved out, and now their pet is in a shelter. So anything can really happen. And they also have a TV commercial. So it's just a short video.
So, I just moved in with this family. It's in Paris. The little one, he likes to go outside and crawl around, leaving the giant litter box. I don't know what he's doing. I mean, I was born and I knew how to use a litter box. Look at that. That's disgusting. Poop already. You're making me nervous. Okay, I can't do this. I really hope he grows out of this. For his sake.
So as you can see, they really try to get their message out there by these ads. And because of their efforts, 4 million pets were adopted last year, and shelters are really on the rise. So people are really starting to look for pets in shelters now. So that's a really good thing. So there are different types of animal shelters. There's private humane societies, which have some paid staff and some volunteers. They keep their animals in one single area. There's a local one where, just in Winona, they keep their animals all in one building. And then the other kind is a rescue organization. This is based off of all volunteers, and they keep their animals in foster homes with caretakers. So they really get to socialize and interact with people a lot to prepare them for a new home. And so now that you know a little bit more about the organization and the adoption stuff, I will explain the process of actually adopting a new pet. So you have to be prepared for, you have to be stable in your financial situation because animals are rather expensive. And you have to probably want to have a stable living environment. You don't want to be moving, or else your pet will go back to the shelter. And you have to keep in mind that it is a lifelong commitment. You have to stick with your animal throughout their life, or else you can't just bring them back to the shelter once they've grown up and aren't a little kitty or a pet puppy anymore. And you also have to have time available to spend time with and bond with your animal. So the next thing you want to think about is what kind of pet do you want. Shelters have the best selection of pets out there. They have dogs, cats, rabbits, hamsters, these all various ages, all various breeds, some purebreds, just all sorts of animals. You also probably want to choose an animal that fits your lifestyle. If you like to be active, you probably want to get a dog. If you're more relaxed and like to sit at home and watch movies, probably a cat because they're very chill. And so you have to look out for that they suit your lifestyle. So adopting can be a very rewarding experience. There's many success stories. Everyone loves their shelter animal. And it also makes room for other animals to flow through the shelter. And then you get to find your new companion. So
The Humane Society does not just deal with dogs and cats like many people assume. They deal with all animals. Wildlife officials of the Humane Society Wildlife Land Trust estimated that about tens of millions of animals are poached each year, and only